What if I told you that some tech companies are rejecting 90% of qualified candidates who could do the job? Have you ever wondered why a junior software engineer might face 5 to 7 rounds of interviews, including algorithm tests that have nothing to do with their day-to-day work? Why is it that hiring process for a software developer can take longer than getting a mortgage or buying a house? The bar for software engineering jobs has reached absurd heights, and it's only getting higher. Top companies are turning away excellent talent over trivial mistakes in interviews designed to be nearly impossible. Today I'm going to reveal the truth about why this is happening and what you can do if you're trying to land a job or hire great engineers. So let's talk about something that has been bothering me for a while: the absurdly high bar that companies set for hiring software engineers. This isn't just hurting candidates, it's actively damaging companies and the industry as a whole, and I'm going to break down exactly why this is happening and what we can do about it today. Welcome to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer, and here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps, as well as to build custom software for companies. With over a decade of executive leadership as a fractional CTO and 25 years in software development, I've mastered transforming tech teams and products. All right, so major tech companies have created a hiring culture that's obsessed with having false positives, hiring someone who might not work out. According to research, the standard deviation in engineering value is about 40% of the mean salary, which equates to roughly about $40,000 for a typical engineer making $100,000. Companies are willing to reject dozens of good candidates or false negatives to avoid hiring one bad engineer, following the logic that missed opportunity costs less than bad hires. Now, this fear-based approach creates interview processes designed to be exclusionary rather than inclusionary, setting the bar so high that many great engineers fail. Now, in my 25 years building software engineering teams, I've found the most damaging hires aren't the ones who lack technical skills, they're the ones with attitude problems that interviews rarely can catch. Now, the irony is that these companies have created processes that are terrific at filtering out good engineers, but terrible at filtering out the narcissistic and toxic personalities. So the tech industry loves to pretend it operates as a pure meritocracy, where only your skills matter. But the interviewing process reveals that's a complete fallacy. Standard technical interviews with algorithm puzzles and whiteboarding exercise has almost nothing to do with day-to-day work of most software engineers. These interviews effectively test your ability to perform under immense pressure while solving contrived puzzles with a stranger watching you. And that's a skill that's irrelevant to the actual job. When you're really working as a software developer, nobody stands over your shoulder and watches you. It's not like Hollywood where they're like, now do it with one arm behind your back, right? Like, that's not the real world, right? So I've watched brilliant engineers who've built complex systems that serve millions of users get rejected because they couldn't invert a binary tree on a whiteboard in 45 minutes. So the process heavily favors recent computer science graduates who've just studied these algorithms and those with privilege of free time to practice leak code problems for months. So after a long time in the industry, I can confidently say that this system has nothing to do with merit and everything to do with arbitrary hazing rituals that has become industry standard, unfortunately. Now, companies are blind to the true cost of the excessive hiring bars. They're spending millions on recruiting while rejecting the very people they desperately need. So in today's market, software engineers receive multiple offers and have luxury of turning down in this overly demanding process, right? The best engineers, the ones who are the highest demands, are often too busy building things to spend weeks practicing algorithm puzzles they'll never use again. By focusing exclusively on technical skills that can be easily tested, companies overlook crucial soft skills like communication, teamwork, problem solving, and understanding business process. I've seen countless companies spend 6+ months with empty positions while rejecting qualified candidates who would have been net positive for the organization. So the math simply doesn't add up. Companies are losing millions in opportunity costs while searching for impossibly perfect candidates. So an entire industry has emerged around preparing candidates for these artificial interview processes, boot camps and courses and books dedicated just to interview prep. Candidates are spending thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours learning skills they'll rarely use, if ever, on a job, just to get past arbitrary gatekeepers. This creates a perverse system where interview skills become completely detached from job performance, with some excellent interviewers turning out mediocre engineers. The process heavily favors those with the resources, time, and connections to prepare specifically for these type of interviews. Now, having hired a lot of engineers over my career, I can confidently say that interviewing performance has little correlation with actual on-the-job success. I had a former boss who used to actually say he did the personality interview first and then would lastly do a quick technical interview. Generally speaking, you can look at somebody's resume and see if they're going to be a good fit technically, right? Especially when you're hiring seniors. Now, I get when you're hiring juniors, you're kind of trying to see some problem solving skills. But again, that personality and the ability to be coached, I find to be far more important than if they can invert a B tree, like we said before. The system ultimately selects a very specific type of engineer created for homogeneous tasks that lack diversity of thought and approach. Now, if your company is struggling to find great software developers because your hiring bar is too high, let us help you out. Here at Startup Hack, our specialty is connecting companies with skilled developers. We can help you out. Check out startuphack.com/Spencer because I help a lot of people in building their teams. Now, the definition of what makes a qualified engineer has become an ever-shifting target, with companies constantly raising the bar without clear justification. As one tech exec told me, quote, "We hire fewer than 1% of applicants, as if the extreme selectiveness was like some kind of badge of honor rather than a sign of a broken process. Job descriptions routinely ask for 5+ years of experience with 3-year-old technologies, creating impossible standards that no candidate can realistically meet. This constant escalation turns hiring into a prestige contest rather than a practical process for finding people who can do the job." Now, throughout my career, I've watched entry-level positions evolve into requiring what used to be senior level qualifications. The result is a bizarre situation where junior developers need years of experience and senior roles require superhuman capabilities that almost no one can possess. Now, tech companies, large and small, have blindly copied the interview practice of FANG companies, right? Your Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google companies without considering whether they make sense for their needs. A small startup with limited resource doesn't need to apply Google's hiring bar, which was designed for a company receiving millions of applications annually. The cargo cult mentality creates a situation where companies with 15 employees are using interview processes designed for companies with 15,000. The tech giants themselves are starting to realize this process is flawed, but their practices have already infected the entire industry. I've consulted with a lot of different companies who rejected great candidates because they were trying to hire Google quality engineers on a startup budget. Companies need to right-size their hiring process to their actual needs rather than blindly imitating the practices of much larger organizations. I actually find it's a lot better to hire on those personality fits and on understanding business process more than it is on making sure that they can, rewrite some crazy level of algorithm, especially now that we have AI to help with a lot of the heavy lifting on some of those parts. Because I need to see that creativity, that thought process, and that problem solving. So these difficult interview processes don't just exclude good candidates, they disproportionately exclude candidates from unrepresented group in tech. Research consistently shows that high-pressure technical interviews amplify existing bias against women, people of color, and older engineers. Candidates from non-traditional backgrounds like boot camps or self-taught paths can face even a higher barrier because they have learned just the technical needs they need to solve the problem, not necessarily every data structure and algorithm out there. The emphasis on computer science theory particularly disadvantages career changers who may have extensive professional experience but lack formal computer science education. Now, I personally am one who loved to hire on experience and on somebody who's good at problem solving. So I've found that diverse perspective consistently leads to better product and solution, yet our hiring practices actively work against this. So by setting the bar so artificially high in ways that amplify bias, companies are damaging their own ability to build creative, diverse teams. And to me, creativity is way more important than having, every single data structure and algorithm. Now, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts and definitely want to hear your guys' stories. The best compliment you can give me is to leave a comment down below and to make sure you've liked and subscribed because I can try to bring you guys great content. Now, perhaps the most troubling aspect of the hiring bar is that it represents companies abdicating their responsibility to develop talent. So we're definitely seeing a slow trend down in some of the software developer hiring right now. And I think part of this is I think the largest one is definitely interest rates, without a question. But there's a lot of things that are factoring into it. And I think this overly high bar that's been set is another one of these. Companies increasingly expect to hire plug-and-play engineers who can be productive literally from day one with zero investment in training or mentorship. This thinking treats engineers as interchangeable parts rather than professionals who grow and develop throughout their career. Now, throughout my career, I've seen that the best companies view hiring as beginning a development journey, not a finished product. When companies expect perfection from day one, they miss out on candidates with tremendous potential who just need some guidance and opportunity. The other part is that the industry's refusal to invest in developing talent has created a negative feedback loop while entry-level positions requires years of experience, and that doesn't even make sense. And so for me personally, we're working here to build a registered apprentice program where we love to take on people who have no experience or very little experience, and we will help to mentor you at a training wage for the first year that you get into the career. We will then train you and give you real world experience. And I really love this because I love to invest into people and to watch them learn and grow. I love when they get that light bulb moment, when things like go on, when that light goes on and they can start to see this and start to pump out code. And if your company has built a development program that needs some help, let us reach out to us, because here at Startup Hack, we love to help companies build sustainable engineering cultures. So check out startuphack.com/Spencer. Now, the skills that determine success as a software engineer in the real world have shockingly little overlap with what's tested in most technical interviews. Day-to-day engineering success depends on communication, collaboration, problem decomposition, and understanding business context, none of which are meaningfully evaluated by these is your man, how do you, why is a manhole cover round, right? Engineers spend far more time reading and understanding existing code than writing new algorithms from scratch. Yet interviews focus almost exclusively on those algorithms. After 25 years of working in the software industry, I can tell you that the ability to work well with others is far more predictive of success than algorithmic brilliance. Companies obsessed over finding engineers who can implement a red-black tree from memory but ignore whether candidates can effectively explain technical concepts to a non-technical stakeholder are missing the boat. This fundamental disconnect between interview context and job requirements guarantees that companies are selecting for the wrong qualities. Now, from a purely economic perspective, the current approach to engineer hiring is profoundly irrational and actually destroys shareholders' value. Companies routinely leave technical roles open for 6 to 12 months while rejecting qualified candidates who could have been delivering value the entire time. If we assume the software engineer generates $300,000 to $500,000 in value annually, each month the position remains open costs the company $25,000 to $40,000 in lost productivity. Adding the cost of recruiters, technical interviewers' time, and opportunity costs, the true expense of an unfulfilled engineering position can easily exceed $100,000 per quarter. Now, in my career, I've never seen a bad hire who generates negative $100,000 in value. Yet companies act as if this is a common outcome. The math simply doesn't support the extreme risk aversion companies show in their hiring process. They're losing far more by leaving positions open than they would from occasionally suboptimal hires. Now, the excessive interview process creates a terrible candidate experience that damages companies' reputations and ability to attract talent. I know people who've interviewed and been turned off from a company, never to return to that company again, just from the interviewing process. Engineers increasingly share their interviewing experiences online, warning others away from companies with particularly grueling or unreasonable process. Highly qualified candidates are dropping out mid-process because they can't justify taking multiple days off work for a role that may not even be offered. I've seen coding tests that would require 2 to 3 days worth of coding in order to get through the application process. And this is ridiculous. After 25 years in the industry, I've seen growing backlash where top engineers simply refuse to participate in certain types of technical assessments. Companies that ignore this trend and continue with excessive process are finding their candidate pools increasingly limited to desperate or inexperienced engineers. So the good news is that there are companies pioneering with more effective approaches to technical hiring that actually predict on-the-job success. For instance, here at Startup Hack, we are now approved in Utah and in Idaho as a registered apprentice provider. We will take people with little or no experience, bring them on the job on training wages, and then help to train and bring them up to speed and give them a year's worth of experience under these programs. I really love this because all of the seniors that I have working for me right now, I've nurtured up from juniors. I love being able to teach them. They become moldable and honestly become very valuable employees. And it works out economically. If your company wants to attract the best talent, it's time to reject the industry's broken practices and build a hiring process that's fair, efficiently, and actively predictive of success. So if your company needs help, reach out to us here at Startup Hack. Reach out to startuphack.com/Spencer. Now, what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear you. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to have a great discussion. The best compliment you can give me is to leave a comment down below and to make sure and like and subscribe. Here at Startup Hack, we'd love to train software developers and to build custom software solutions for companies. So reach out if we can help, and here's some great information about some of our services.
Hi, my name is Spencer Thomason, and I'm a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology teams and products. So what is a fractional CTO? This is where you can contract someone like myself to come into your organization and get the benefits of a seasoned CTO without having to employ me full time. In today's fast-paced world, efficiency, security, and product scaling aren't just goals, they're necessities. My passion is building impactful products and enhancing organizational efficiencies through technology. From startups to small businesses, my approach leverages lean methodologies to not just meet but exceed your strategic goals. Whether it's through executive mentoring, cloud system architecture, or launching a minimum viable product swiftly, my aim is to make a significant impact right from the start. Recognized in the Arizona startup ecosystem, my journey has been about creating value and fostering innovation. I have led technology for companies like GoDaddy, SRP, and Wells Fargo and turned challenges into milestones. I've taken this learning and launched 7 of my own brands, and now I want to help you. So if you're looking for a fractional CTO who brings a wealth of experience, strategic vision, and a proven track record, let's connect. Together we can build technology that not only drives your business forward, but also makes a difference. Technology leadership redefined to fit your needs. So reach out today.